They must have switched them. 5.
Good evening. Welcome to the Town Council meeting of Monday, December 20th, 2021 at 7:08 p.m. here in the McKinnon Council Chambers. Agenda item number 1, Pledge of Allegiance. Agenda item number 2, roll call.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor Catrona.
Present.
Councillor Daniel.
Present.
Councillor Dow. Councillor Jovan.
Present.
Councillor Lazo.
Present.
Councillor Marquetti.
Present.
Councillor Ryan.
Present.
And Councillor Steves.
Present.
8 present, we have a quorum. Very good. Agenda item number 3, consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, December 6th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item number 4, subcommittee reports. General Government, Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, we have had no meeting and thus have no report, but our next meeting is going to be on the 29th at 7 p.m. in the Veterans Room.
Thank you. Department of Public Works, Councilor McCarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a DPW subcommittee meeting on Wednesday, December 15th. In attendance were myself, Councilor Steves, Citizen Member Kevin Splain. Also in attendance were Councilor Catrona, DPW Director Heather Blakely, Town Manager Michael McCall, Council Chair John Daniel, Conservation Commission Vice Chair Maureen Doyle, and Citizen George Chenier. We have one agenda item, and it's on tonight's meeting, agenda item number 12, the MIA Grant Award of $8,228.20. We also had a good discussion on the road improvements in town and some of the issues concerning those projects, such as Main Street, Marcy Street, Page Hill, Dudley River Road. The meeting is on Southbridge Cable Access YouTube channel, and I think it will be going up on channel 192 soon. At this time, we have no meeting scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Education and Human Services, Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, we had a meeting on December 14th, 2021. There were 2 items that will be up for discussion this evening for the Inspections Department in attendance with myself. Committee member Council Catrona, Council Ryan was excused. Citizen Member Dyer, Citizen Member Cristo. Also in attendance were Councilors Lazo, Marquetti, and Steves. Inspector Pelletier was there, as well as Southbridge Cable TV, and we'll discuss the items when they come available. I do anticipate scheduling another meeting. It will be after the holidays because I believe the Director of Inspections has one more thing to have us review. Thank you.
Very good. Planning and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, January 3rd is our next meeting, 6 p.m., and agenda item number 11 will be discussed this evening. Thank you.
Very good. Protection of Persons and Property, Councilor Lazo.
I have no report at this time. We did have a meeting, and we will be addressing agenda items 9, 10, 13, 15, 16, 18, and 19 tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Agenda item number 5, Chairman's announcements. I have one announcement. I'd like to congratulate Anita Peliquin Ashambo on her 100th birthday today. She has put in a wonderful background here in Southbridge. She worked at the old Ames store on Mill Street. She's very devoted to her church. She has 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. And we wish her blessings, and we hope that she lives another 100 years. So thank you very much. That's all I have. Item number 6, Town Manager's announcements.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I guess we can start off. I know several councilors this evening are wearing masks. I brought one this evening as well. That's been a topic of discussion over the last couple of weeks here at Town Hall and throughout the town. As many of you know, if you've been watching the news, the numbers are on the increase. During our bi-weekly meeting today, the numbers that were read out by Mr. Pelletier show that we are reaching a positivity rate and a case rate as high as they've seen when we were in the COVID lockdown session of last year. Those comments were echoed by representatives of Harrington Memorial Hospital, that they are at capacity, if not in excess of capacity, with regard to the number of cases. They said it's the highest they've ever seen, and it's the worst it's ever been. As you know, at this point in time, we're not receiving any guidance from the governor with regard to any type of mask mandate or lockdown, so it really falls to the individual cities and towns. And Mr. Pelletier is here this evening if you have any questions, but the school of thought that was discussed today, at least as he relayed from the Board of Health, is unless there's a unified regional approach to mask mandates, it only really hurts individual communities that go and impose that on their individual businesses. So there has to be an agreement among the communities if we're going to do something to that extent. In the interim, though, we are continuing to utilize our mask mandates here in Town Hall and ask that all people social distance when they come into the building. We have had some isolated cases amongst our employees. Fortunately, those employees felt sick when they're outside of work hours or over the weekend, and they did consult with Mr. Pelletier, and we've been having them get tested before they return to work, so we've been fortunate to prevent any spread within the department. We did have to close one department last week because we had several people that were either out on vacation at the same time, some people were exposed, but we've been able to keep our daily operations running without any real problems. But we would just encourage everybody to consider getting vaccinated and get your booster shots. Mr. Pelletier is working on getting several clinics next month to address the schools, town employees, and hopefully for the residents of Southbridge. We will keep you notified of that. But again, I would encourage everybody to be vigilant as you go out over the holidays. We have New Year's as well coming up. You'll be in close contact with folks. Make sure you wear your mask and do the best you can to social distance to prevent the spread of both the Delta and the Omicron viruses. I would also just like to mention that since we last met, we did go live with our website. It came up, as I indicated before, a little earlier than we would have liked to, but because of the fact that we were using CARES money and we had to get a delivery of that and get it up and running so that we would be in compliance with the requirements of the CARES Act. It came out 2 weeks prior to the end of the year, so we could get most of the kinks worked out before we made or transferred the final monies from the CARES Act. I'm happy to report that as the requests come in, I've had several from counselors. We're trying to address them as quickly as possible, usually the same day. And as the staff gets better with it, I anticipate we'll be making more improvements with more content. There were some questions about the photographs. They were some of the stock photographs that we found on the website, but I'm happy to share with you that Southbridge Community Television has offered to give us some of their drone footage as well as other pictures from past events, and we'll be integrating those in as well as other content. We're also continuing to migrate over older agendas and meeting minutes and other content that was on the other database, and I anticipate within the coming weeks everything will be transferred over, and we'll continue to put new content up as it comes available. As we talk about IT, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Cournoyer. Mr. Cournoyer is retiring at the end of this month, and this will probably be the last opportunity we have to say thank you to Mr. Cournoyer. He's worn two hats while I've been here and for many years. He's been our principal assessor. He's been intimately involved with the migration into the Munis software. He oversees the water and sewer billing, and he has been the homegrown IT manager for the town for the last almost decade or more. He learned it on the job, and he's done a fine job, and recently the town was recognized for our level of cybersecurity when they did a test on the town and said that we had one of the best cybersecurity systems in the region. So credit to Mr. Cournoyer. As I said, he has big shoes that we'll need to fill in both areas. We just interviewed recently, and we have an offer out to one of the candidates for the assessor's job, and we're working to determine our next steps with the IT management. We have a contract in place that we do use to handle some of our day-to-day operations and hotline, and I have talked with the school department and other department heads to see how we can consolidate our efforts with regard to some of our IT resources to come up with a solution to replace Mr. Canoyer. And again, I wish him well in his retirement, and he's picked a good time to go out. He's got 2 daughters, and the holidays coming up, and I wish him well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Agenda item number 7, presentations. There are none this evening. Agenda item number 8, citizens forum. Are there any citizens that would like to approach the podium to speak on any issues not on the agenda? Please take the podium.
Donald Solinsky, Henry Street, Southbridge. I want to spend my 5 minutes tonight speaking to how this town, guided by the town manager, happened to manipulate the legal system in an effort by all of you to not only take my best friend and companion from me, but to deny me my right of due process and the right to bring a form of accountability to the Animal Control Office. During the June Town Hall hearing, not only did the town manager state that I had the right to appeal the decision to Dudley District Court, but the chief of police said the exact same thing. And he even went a step further, stating that if they would have chosen to charge me criminally, then it would have to be heard by the district court judge. Upon hearing this, I yelled while I was seated over there, "Well, please do that." As I realized at this point in time, it was the only way I was going to get a fair hearing. Maybe if I had assaulted the ACO when she approached Vegas that day, he was choking, this could have been heard in front of a judge who will look at the facts. Not a body of wannabe politicians who just want to appear to be fair. I repeat, appear to be fair, when most of them are not looking at facts, but on speculation. What if it happens again? Or, as the brilliant ACO said, for the possibility that this will happen again. Well, as it turns out, I was 100% correct as to what would have happened had it been permitted to have this heard in front of a judge. In his own words, and I paraphrase, "Mr. Solinsky, I read your case and I think you have been punished enough. I feel that 2 months without your dog is punishment enough." And then he said, staring directly at the animal control officer and the hired lawyer from Boston, that I think it would be helpful if both you and Mr. Solinsky could work something out. But this prudent man didn't know the type of people he was dealing with, because 5 minutes later, as I tried to approach the ACO on the front steps of the courthouse, your ACO of the year said, "I'm all set." I then asked her, "Let's see if we can work something out." And her response was a loud nope. The judge that day was a fair man. But the town came ready for this. They had hired an expensive law firm out of Boston. I must say, a complete waste of taxpayers' money. They hired an expensive law firm out of Boston to look into any legal trick that they could dig up to prevent a man from having his dog. Not because he had bitten someone again. Oh no, for something far worse. He had removed his muzzle because his dog was choking. This man doesn't deserve to keep his companion. Oh no, he deserves to lose it. Well, I guess the money the town spent on their legal team paid off, because they found the one loophole needed. The statute, as written, was silent on the right of me to appeal the violation and the severe punishment. Mr. McCall is an attorney, I believe, and he knows that that is not the spirit of the statute. I would have liked to have thought that you, as decent people, would want someone to have a fair and impartial hearing. But it seems that most of you are like our illustrious ACO. It's win at all cost. as I heard Mr. Lazo say earlier. One of the reasons that I agreed to the insane 5-page agreement I was forced to sign in order to save my dog's life was that he was being held in a cage for the first time in his life and would still be there while I appealed the judge's decision. And if I didn't sign it, you would have killed him. It also seems interesting that the crucial part of the agreement you wanted was my having to give up my right to sue the town. What were you all so afraid of, huh? What were you all so afraid of? So ashamed of? That you had to hold my dog hostage for me to sign it. Well, I want to end it by saying that this is not the end. The head of ARC, Animal Control Rescue Connection, is fighting to have this unjust law amended so as not to cause this heartbreak to occur to someone else. She is told that this was never the intent of the statute and this should never have happened. If the law was put in the right hands, then maybe it could work properly. And my fight with this town and this town council is far from over. Merry Christmas.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a point of clarification?
Certainly.
Through you to the town manager. Mr. Town Manager, did you kill his dog?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Councilor Marchetti, I'm not aware that we did. Every step along the way, we consulted with our attorney to make sure we were doing what we were supposed to do and follow the letter of the law. What Mr. Solinsky keeps referring to is that night, in my prior experience, working in municipal administration, after dog hearings, there could be an appeal to the district court, and I believe that Chief Woodson also said the same thing. And I turned around and mentioned that to Mr. Solinsky. But he did have the advice of counsel. We have our own counsel. You know, I did not realize that counsel was going to come back at that particular hearing and make the argument that he wasn't entitled to the appeal, but apparently that's how the law played out when they went through the logic of all the scenarios, because this wasn't a straight-up violation. He violated the order based on the prior incident with the biting. So that is how we got to this point. And it wasn't the council that did anything. Mr. Solinsky failed to abide by the terms and conditions of the order, simply put.
My simple question, though, is did you kill his dog?
As I said from the outset, no, I did not.
The town did not kill his dog.
No, the dog is, my understanding is the dog is alive and well. He was placed at the 11th hour. As I said, the ACO was still looking to place the dog somewhere, and the dog was placed.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Lazo.
my name was mentioned earlier about playing to win. I don't know anybody that plays to lose. That's usually a loser. That's just my philosophy. Our ACO was professional. She followed the letter of the law. Chief of Police was right behind this whole thing as far as watching the logistics of it. Our town manager crossed the T's, dotted the I's. The council did their job as it's designed to be done under the statute. The gentleman continues to come to a meeting and said, Southbridge killed my dog, which is a bull-faced lie. This is all theatrics, and I think as a council, he can come up here 1,000 times if he'd like. I had no intentions of even talking, but since Councilor Marchetti cleared the air, I think the air has to be cleared, that the dog wasn't killed. And the shirt the man wears is a bull-faced lie. And these are the kind of things that happen in politics, but I would advise the council at the next meeting, let him just blow his hot air off and just let him go. Thank you.
Are there any other citizens that would like to approach the podium tonight to discuss an issue that is not on tonight's agenda? There being none, let's move on, please. Agenda item number 9. Vote to confirm the police chief's recommendation to appoint the following people as a special traffic constable for a 3-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2024. If councilors wish to place a hold on any one particular person, please let me know as the names are mentioned. The following people are to be appointed: Holly Boyle of Southbridge, Mass. Thomas Edwards Jr. of Southbridge, Mass. Gary Fontaine of Southbridge, Mass. Lisa Fermaric of Southbridge, Mass. Jacques Kalanian of Southbridge, Mass. Brianna LaFlame of Vernon, Connecticut. Dylan Langlaze of Southbridge, Mass. Ryan Morton of Spencer, Mass. Melissa Palmer of Brookfield, Mass. Gary Peck of Southbridge, Mass. Natalie Stevens of Spencer, Mass. Joshua Thomas of Holland, Mass.
Second.
Very good. Council Lazo.
Each and every one of the names that were in front of us here tonight got unanimous consent for confirmation to council. Thank you.
Chief.
I could, through you, Mr. Chair, good evening, members of the council, and Mr. Town Manager. Like I had mentioned at the PPP meeting last week, most of these candidates are working tonight. Some of them also have some COVID-related issues. That's why they're not all in the audience. This is essentially a list of people that currently work for our community as firefighters, dispatchers, retired police officers. In the next round, the hiring, if we need more special traffic constable, I think it's important to note residents will be given preference in our community. So this first is all employees that work for us now, trained in public safety, and I got into it in much greater detail at the subcommittee. We have firefighters who are paramedics, EMTs, been with our community for 20 plus years. 2 of them train our police officers now in CPR and first responder, highly qualified, each and every one of them. One's a retired police lieutenant in our community for 30 years, worked at the House of Correction as a deputy sheriff for 14 years. We got some very qualified people, including dispatchers, already trained first responders. They can hit the street running. They just have to take some minor training for the traffic side of the house. But other than that, I highly recommend each and every one of them.
Very good. Discussion. Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I know I've asked this question before, and I would like to clear it up a little bit. At the November 15th meeting, when you introduced the special traffic constable, you had thrown a lot of numbers around. I went back and watched it just so I could get it clear. I heard 56 an hour, I heard 51 an hour. You mentioned fireman rates, dispatcher rates. You said flaggers get paid time and a half because due to state law, anyone working over 40 hours gets overtime. The union contract says police officers on extra duty for private details shall get sergeant's pay at time and a half. Well, sergeant's pay is $35.26 per hour. Time and a half is 52, over 52.
Yeah.
So is this the rate of pay they will all be making on private details? For municipal jobs, it says, which I think are the majority of the work that I saw this past summer, firefighters, the union contract says they will get time and a half their regular pay. So firefighters, EMTs get at time and a half, average 48 per hour. Dispatchers get 34.09 per hour average. So is that what they will be making on municipal details?
Is that, yes, is that the question?
Yes.
If I could, through you, Mr. Chair, so any private details, $52.02 an hour,
Oh, every one of them.
straight. No
Okay.
matter who it is, no matter who's working it.
Okay.
If it's a dispatcher, a firefighter, or a civilian, would get $52.02 an hour.
All right.
The part that gets a little bit tricky is if it is a municipal detail, which you're right, this year and even last year, it's been unique since I've been here. It hasn't been like this always, where a lot of the jobs are sewer, DPW, water, and some of our major construction projects
Right, yeah.
are state-funded grants.
Okay.
So that's all correct, Counselor. They would get their time and a half rate per the federal statute. We have to pay them their time and a half rate. And the average firefighter's overtime, according to my records and the research I've done, is about $48 an hour, give or take, depending on the seniority, depending on the training and how many years they have in the
Okay,
job.
yeah.
Also, dispatcher, I believe their overtime rate's about $35 an hour. Again, varies based on how much time they have on the job.
All right.
So some of the overtime rates are actually less than the current detail rate.
Right.
That's just how it works.
I mean, that is a good savings, I will say that. But the union contract also says, Sundays and holidays and anything over 8 hours, the rate shall be paid time and a half, the detail rate. So that would mean a police officer would get 79 per hour, a fireman would get 72 per hour, and dispatcher would get 51.14 per hour, correct?
Yes, and if I could just elaborate on that, I don't know if a holiday job will ever get to anybody other than a police officer.
Okay,
I can't ever see that happening. Historically, in 20-plus
Sundays?
years on a holiday,
All right.
the police are working those
or
jobs.
anything, it says anything over 8 hours. So, anything over 8 hours, or,
Anything over 8, yes, and again, it's very rare. A few construction jobs that work,
all right,
they start at 7 in the morning, they end at 7 at night when they're in a bind. But for the most part, it's 8-hour jobs,
okay.
the majority of them.
And no other benefits, no 4-hour minimum?
Yes, the first 4 is a 4-hour minimum. Anything after 4 on
Is an
on
8-hour.
is an 8-hour minimum on a private job.
Okay.
On a municipal detail, it is not an automatic 8 hours.
And you have
Everything
that-
after 4, it's hour for hour. That's an agreement we have collectively bargained in our contract.
Oh, really?
Municipal details are not automatic 8.
Okay. That didn't look like that to me, but I'll
It
take your
is
word
not.
for it. That's a pretty good savings that you talk about, but they're not going to get any other benefits? Just
No.
Okay. Well, what about someone who doesn't work for the town? What if there's somebody like, you have one candidate tonight, he's laid off, what's he going to get paid?
If I could, through you, Mr. Chair, it'd be the same thing as we've done historically with our auxiliaries. Technically, they don't work in a paid position for the town. So if we have a citizen who has known capacity is employed by the town before, they become a traffic constable, they'd be paid that $52.02 an
Okay.
hour rate across
Right.
the board.
Okay. But what happens if the town shares a street project, like the DPW director wants to share street projects with National Grid? Who would pay them? Would we split the cost? At what rate of pay?
Prior to any project starting, we know who's paying it. That's worked out way in advance.
Even if we're splitting it with them?
We have never split a job since I've been the chief, right, that I
Oh.
know of. in how
Well,
many
the
years I've worked.
DPW director wants to split, when National Grid is doing half the road, she wants to do the other half at the same time to save money.
Well, that's a hypothetical. It has not happened yet. If it did, we
No, I
would
thought
work
it
it out.
did. It didn't happen yet?
I don't believe that's ever happened.
All right,
When we show up on a job is spec'd out usually a year in advance if it's a large job, sometimes several years in advance, and we know exactly who's paying for it. If there's an issue with like a tree being down we've had in the past, is it on town property, is it not on town property? Ms. Blakely comes out, we kind of make that determination, and before anybody even shows up, we know who's paying for
oh,
it.
okay, yeah. All right. Now, also at the November 15th meeting, you said you were going to put an emphasis on hiring Southbridge residents. So what happened to that plan?
I mentioned it prior to your question. This was the first round. These are people that are already working here in public safety.
All right.
They require absolute minimal training. They can go right on the street for us.
All right.
The next round, you will see all Southbridge residents. Hopefully, they'll be given preference, and I hope it's all Southbridge people, but it might not be. But they'll be given first preference, yes.
Okay. And in order to become a flagger, you have to take some classes, you have to get some training. The training does include first aid and CPR, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apologize for not being at the meeting, at a Veterans Council meeting that evening, but I want to thank you for bringing these guys and gals up so quickly, especially with the new law coming into place and making sure the town is taken care of. So thank you, Chief, for all the hard work, and I appreciate all those individuals, if they get on this evening, for them stepping up. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a quick question. Is that according to Mass General Law, Section 94, the constables, I don't know if they will fall into this section or not, constables have the authority to, they have the powers of sheriffs to require aid in the execution of their duties. They shall take due notice of and prosecute all violations of laws respecting the observance of the Lord's Day, profane swearing, and illegal gaming.
That's a constable, if I could, through Mr. Chair, that's a constable that would serve legal processes, paperwork in our community.
Yeah.
Different statute.
Which statute is this under?
This falls under the same 3-year appointment.
Yeah.
For constables, and Southbridge can appoint as many as they feel that they need.
Yeah, I saw that.
But they have zero powers other than, and that's spelled out in the policy and procedure that they're going to sign on to. They're not armed. They have absolutely no I shouldn't say responsibility. They have no arrest powers, no police powers, zero. They have to call for police if there's any issues, they have to call
Oh, okay. Okay.
on the radio. They're not going to be out making arrests and negative.
Okay, I didn't think they would be because they'd be mostly doing traffic details, but I didn't know if they would have like authority to pull people over or anything like that.
No, and quite honestly, there's a lot of issues with constables in the state not traffic constables, other constables, creating a lot of issues. And for years, that's been addressed by Mass Chiefs anyway, where we're trying to change that. Because it's old, it's from 100 years ago, and it makes no sense now.
Well,
To
like
allow
that
people
section
to
you just
have
read,
certain-
yeah.
So I
Right.
agree with you on that.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Joanne.
Thank you through you, Chief, thank you for this proposal. I understand how difficult it is to get detail officers nowadays, because every time I was asking for it, my phone blew up tonight. I'd take 5 tomorrow if I wanted to. I just want to, for the record, I think the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the state legislature did a disservice to the towns and cities in this state by doing away with part-time and auxiliary police officers that make it very difficult for a town like us that relies on auxiliaries with a number of unpaid positions, other cities that use those traffic constables. So thank you for working on this, but that's just my commentary on that. Commonwealth of Massachusetts legislation took a national problem that we didn't have here, tried to put a one-size-fit-all, and it's really hamstrung law enforcement in this state. That's my personal opinion, but thank you for just thinking outside the box to try to get the streets covered. Thank you.
And Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Chief, did the state of Massachusetts do away with auxiliary police officers?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no. And I believe we had this conversation here, just so it's public now. They did not get rid of part-time police officers or auxiliary police officers under the police reform bill, technically. What the state did, in their infinite wisdom, and I agree with the Council, Joe Van, they restricted communities the ability financially to continue auxiliary programs or part-time police programs. Just a ballpark figure in our community would be about $75,000 to uptrain our 25 or so auxiliaries that we have in our community. So they didn't automatically strike it out of the positions, but what they did is they took specials, auxiliaries, part-timers, full-timers, what we have or what we had. And then with the police reform bill, all you have now is a certified police officer. So everybody has to be trained up to a certain level, all the same level. And you're required to do 2,400 hours a year of a ride-along if you're a part-timer. You got to go to essentially a full-time academy. We have to supply all the equipment, all the training. So Southbridge, in many communities, not just Southbridge, just couldn't afford it. So auxiliaries, part-timers, reserves, intermediates, all those are going to eventually go away because cities and towns can't afford it. So you're correct, they did not eliminate it, but they're making it financially, it's just not feasible to maintain those positions any longer.
All right, thank you. Thank you for clearing that up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the council's clarification. To me, they did away with it. He was correct with his assertion on it. My point is, 32 years as a part-time police officer, and suddenly I'm not qualified to do a road job. To me, that's a disservice to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And yes, the requirements that they put on auxiliary police officers, they would never make the requirement to be able to become full-time because of the requirements that they put on the auxiliary. So essentially, you do away with auxiliary program because a lot of auxiliary programs never have police powers, true police powers or patrol function. They're never going to be able to get that mark that the state would require. Technically, you are correct, so I stand corrected on that, but it's my political commentary of how the Commonwealth. Thank you.
I did raise my hand, by the way.
There being no, I saw it. There being no further discussion, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 10, vote to ratify the agreement with Public Safety Consultants LLC in the amount of $6,245 to conduct an assessment center to fill the rank of sergeant and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved.
Council Lazo.
The recommendation of the subcommittee was unanimous to confirm.
Chief.
If I could for you again, Mr. Chair, we currently have 6 sergeants, 5 assigned to patrol, 1's assigned to our detective division. We've got a sergeant that's leaving in January for another department. This position is currently budgeted. It's in my existing budget. The company that we would like to use, that we're here tonight before you, We used in 2017 the police department to fill 2 sergeants' positions, and back in 2018 and 2019, the fire department used to fill a lieutenant and a deputy fire chief position, I believe. Charlton, Sturbridge, Oxford, Auburn, just to name a few off the top of my head, have all used this company. They're familiar with our community, and again, they've done assessment centers in this community, both police and fire. I highly recommend that we sign this contract, or the manager be authorized to sign a contract. This doesn't mean that we're promoting anybody tonight. This just means that we can initiate the process, have an independent tester come in, give us the top 3 candidates. From there, we do interviews, and then any potential promotion we brought forward to the town council for ultimate approval.
Discussion? Council Steves.
Shane, just a quick question. Once they've gone through this process, how long will they be eligible for promotion, say if a vacancy comes up next year or 2 years from now?
3 years.
3 years?
That list, and if I could just to kind of elaborate on that, this list, it's 3 years. I expect, or I hope the testing to be started in March. So we're going to be without a sergeant for a couple months, but this is the best that we can do. This company's very busy. There's numerous openings throughout the state due to a lot of issues that are going on in the Commonwealth. A lot of people are retiring, a lot of people are changing professions. Like any other job, there's a lot of vacancies, so this company couldn't get in here until March. But it would be 3 years, council.
Anyone else? Very good. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Thank you. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year.
Agenda item number 11, vote to approve the extension of the Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD, Community Development Block Grant, Cdbg, mini entitlement, and a fiscal year 19 contract to June 30, 2022, and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved.
Second.
I lost which councilor addressed this. This is you, Councilor Adams?
That was mine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. It was voted on 4-0 at our last P&D subcommittee meeting. One of the questions that was raised on this was from Councilor Marquetti. Was this the same one we just extended up until December? I had to actually get with Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean responded in kind, yes, it was. I asked why we wouldn't have done it for a year, because I think that was something that I had brought up earlier on. She said that DHCD does not encourage one-year extensions, but 6 months at a time to be able to see what we're spending out there. So I sent that on to Councilor Marquetti because he specifically asked that question. But this is the request for extension of the FY19 Cdbg grant that we received. I believe there's a few items left to purchase as well or finish up utilizing this grant. That's all I've got.
Any discussion? Council Steves.
Just a clarification. We're talking about the mini entitlement grant here.
Councilor, I can't hear you at all.
Just for clarification, we're talking about the mini entitlement grant here, about to give out. If this is the grant, isn't this the grant that we're going about giving? Is this the grant we're giving money away to small businesses and things like that, or am I thinking something different?
No, Councilor, it's not. It'd be under COVID. That was for, I believe. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, Becky.
If I may, through you, Chair, this is your $825,000 fiscal year 19 grant for the Main Street signalization improvements.
Oh, right.
You have commercial rehab, and you have code enforcement. You have $44,000 remaining of the $825,000. So this is more of a technical motion. I had every intention of us completing the projects by the end of December, but we were sort of held up waiting for a rigid awning design for 111, which I want to be able to procure first before going for the soft awnings, because that might be a little bit of extra money I could be spending in different ways for extra projects if the rigid awning comes in cheaper. The design hasn't come in, and so rather than force it, I felt like if we could go for the extra 6 months, it would be in our best favor, and DHCD had no problem with it.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item number 12, vote to accept the fiscal year 22 Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, MIIA, grant award of $8,228.20 for safety-related equipment, and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was voted unanimous to send it up to the council. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I'm filling in for the DPW director on this particular issue. The Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association is our insurance provider, and they offer these risk management grants. DPW applied for these. As you can see in your materials, these are tools and other equipment that would be used only to better protect our employees when they're doing regular maintenance around the community, close entry, things for working inside of a hole. When I say hole, trenches and so forth, equipment for checking for gas leaks, other safety equipment for around trenching, cones, and lastly, equipment for using chainsaws, appropriate gloves, chaps, and helmets with the appropriate masks. So all things that would be extremely beneficial for our employees. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Do you want to take a short break?
Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 13, vote to adopt the proposed adjusted permit fee schedule for the Town of Southbridge building permit fees, the Town of Southbridge wiring inspector fees, and the Town of Southbridge gas and plumbing fees.
So moved.
Second.
Council Lazo.
It came up at Protections of Persons and Property. Vote was unanimous to confirm this fee system, the schedule.
Very good. Any discussion? Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just have one question. I noticed this when I was reviewing my packet again. I noticed under the plumbing and gas, residential and commercial, it went from $75 plus $8 per fixture, which includes 2 inspections, and the proposed change is you strike that out.
Sorry, what part did I strike out?
Under the plumbing and gas section in the residential and commercial, right at the top of that page, it says 75 plus $8 per fixture, and it used to say includes 2 inspections, and now I'm assuming it means just 1 inspection now?
No, it actually means for the job.
Okay.
This was the item that actually brought the changes to our attention. We had a contractor who regularly pulled a permit that would have required 1 inspection, and we basically, if you fail in your permit, if you don't build it to code, we have to go back, incur another cost on the town. And this gentleman kept coming back on us and saying, it says 2 inspections, says 2 inspection, even though it was a simple appliance change which only requires 1. The original thought behind the 2 inspections was when you build a house or you put an addition on, you get a rough inspection and a final inspection. That still stands. Right now, the permit is for the work proposal and the number of inspections that would be required for that. It just covers us from poor workmanship, paying for their poor workmanship.
That was a great answer. Thank you. That answered my question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 14, vote to direct the town manager to order the inspector of buildings to enter into the property at 495 South Street with necessary workmen and assistants and cause such unsafe structure to be taken down without delay.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Lazo.
This was in front of subcommittee. It was unanimously voted to confirm the taking down of the structure. Everybody's on board with this one. This one here is in really bad shape, and the quicker, the better. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? So voted. Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 15, vote to ratify the contract between the Town of Southbridge and Associated Building Records Incorporated for the purpose of demolishing the structure at 495 South Street and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Lazo.
Again, this is the same project. This is the funding mechanism, and it was unanimous at subcommittee to fund it, to take down.
Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 16, vote to ratify the agreement between the Town of Southbridge and Relevant Services Incorporated for use of the Food Code Pro and Housing Code Pro inspection software for the 2-year grant period and revisit upon conclusion of that grant period and authorize the town manager to sign any related documents.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Jovan.
Thank you. The next two items, items 16 and 17, were reported out of subcommittee on a 4-0 favorable vote.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 17, vote to support the local health support for COVID-19 case investigation and contact tracing grant to include the town of Southbridge in all opportunities and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Councilor Jovan said this was approved by his subcommittee. Any discussion? Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item 18. Thank you, Andy.
Councilors, I appreciate it. Have a great holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 18, vote to approve the Fire Chief Emergency Management Director's Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, CEMP.
So moved.
Second.
Council Lazo.
The recommendation was unanimous to confirm.
Chief.
Thank you. So again, thank you, councilors. You heard my lengthy discussion on this and description of what these plans were. The first one being the SEMP plan. I'll abbreviate this discussion tonight. The purpose for the SEMP plan, which is the Southbridge Comprehensive Emergency Plan, is to establish the overall framework for integration and coordination of emergency management and response activities, and to facilitate coordinated response to any emergency or event in the community requiring multi-agency response or support. Some of the examples that we use for this plan are pre-planned events, such as fairs, anything that we have on the common, events like that, and then unplanned events in regards to winter storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that. So this plan is a document, it's a guide that we use through the EOC system, and the incident command system is in place. And I highly recommend that we get this taken care of, and we'll have this plan in place. This will be updated on an annual basis just after the annual election.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the chief, thank you very much. I appreciate this beautiful document, and I know it's been some work in progress. You said annually. Will it start this June?
Through the chair, right now, this is the plan that we'll propose and sign, and then this June, we'll do it again.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Anyone else? Any further discussion? Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item number 19, vote to approve the Fire Chief Emergency Management Director's Continuity of Operations Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Council Lazo.
The vote was unanimous, confirmation at subcommittee.
Chief.
Again, I did fail to mention that TJ Edwards here, standing behind me, did a good amount or most of the editing and the review and work on this program and this plan. On both of these plans has been months in the making, almost over a year in the making. But again, I want to thank TJ for doing that, and this is we'll continue moving forward with this. But the continuity of operations plan is a management plan to establish procedures to maintain essential functions in response to and recover from the effects of a wide range of emergencies which may disrupt normal government operations. The COOP, as it's referred to, will help a community cope with serious staff reductions and unavailable support systems during a pandemic flu, which we're in right now, or large-scale disasters. Its purpose is to ensure that the essential functions of the town of Southbridge will continue uninterrupted. The plan will address how to transfer authority when key personnel are unavailable. This is called a delegation of authority and leadership succession. Again, this plan will be reviewed on an annual basis in the June timeframe, and I urge you to approve this document tonight. Thank you.
Any discussion? Council Jovan?
I think Council Lazo had his hand up first. That was the first.
Very good. Council Lazo.
I just want to make a quick note. When we work on these documents, they're a ton of work as far as the secretarial work. And I've always been somebody that watches what goes in and what comes out. And sometimes I'm critical on some of the packets and dates, they're not matched up. This lady we have in the front office, her name is Noor. She's somebody new. She's outstandingly professional. But the thing is, when she puts together a packet, and don't hold me to these numbers, upwards to 686 pages of document. And then she hits aces on every single thing we had in the PPP subcommittee. I just think that's unbelievable. In the time that I've been on council, school committee, we all make mistakes. But this lady here, I just got to throw one out there and say, great job. When you put that type of packet together and not make any mistakes like that, I thought it was unbelievable. Thank you.
I agree.
Council Jovan.
Thank you. Through you, I just want to say thank you to the chief and firefighter TJ Edwards, because there's a lot of work that went into this. We've been talking about this co-op plan for over 3 years now, and really came to light when we had the issue with the asbestos problem, when we had to close town hall, and how do we operate when we have to close the town hall, and then as we walked into COVID, it became important that we had to plan in place. I know there was a lot of hard work, Council Adams was on this side, but thank you to Firefighter Edwards and the chief for putting all this work together so that we have these comprehensive plans to know how we operate in emergencies. So again, can't thank them enough. And Firefighter Edwards has done double duty also during the COVID response with our MEMA and FEMA and all that reporting that we have to do. So just kudos to them while they're here for the work that was done on this. Thank you.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just we were seeing Kumbaya on, there's rainbows and all that kind of stuff, but I know how hard it is to get something like this together, an SOP that you standardizes a lot of the stuff that you guys are going to do. And I think we found it, as Councilor Jovan had mentioned before, when we had asbestos issues in town, it didn't go so well at the very beginning because there was something, no document that the town manager can go off of right away. And this hopefully will close some of the gaps, regardless of who is in what office at this point in time, as long as it's kept up to date. So thank you, Chief. Thank you, TJ, for all the hard work that you guys did. Thank you.
Councilor Lazo.
Just a quick follow-up. Chief, no drawback. You did a fantastic job. But I was just explained that it was 906 pages to the document. So on your behalf, your staff, that secretary, the TM, I know at subcommittee it's a lot of paper, but we get through it. It's a valuable document. Look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Thank you very much, Chief. Excellent job. TJ, nice job. Agenda item number 20, vote to approve the contract between Howard S. Dono and Associates Incorporated and the town of Southbridge for appraisal services for the acquisition of properties for the new fire station as recommended by the Fire Station Building Committee.
Second.
So,
And
Mr.
authorize the
Chairman.
town manager to sign all related documents.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Marchetti. Councilor Marquetti.
I did watch the Fire Station Building Committee meeting, and I do understand why you want to bring this right up to the town council. My only question is, shouldn't this go to a subcommittee first? I mean, this is probably the most important thing that we are going to be working on this year, next year, and the most costly undertaking we're going to be taking since the schools, and to rush it and skip subcommittee level, I'm not trying to stop anything here. I understand why you're doing it. I understand the vote was taken in June. Somebody dropped the ball on having these things appraised, so I don't think it's our fault, and I don't think we should be skipping subcommittees. It should be fully vetted and talked about at the subcommittee. That's all I'm questioning. Someone even at your committee thought you should probably, suggested you should skip the town council even, so I just want to get it clear here that I think it should go to subcommittee level first.
Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, through you to the previous speaker, nobody dropped the ball. This required us first going out. We have a well-thought-out strategic plan to build the fire station with the proper oversight and accountability. Part of that oversight and accountability was us seeking an owner's project manager to oversee the project. The town manager then wrote an RFP to go out and do a quote for us to hire an owner's project manager to oversee the project that is needed of the size and scope of this magnitude. We did that. We interviewed. Then part of that was the strategy was, and the town manager can elaborate on some of the stuff, and I'm speaking as the Fire Station Building Committee Chair. I'll step up over here if you wish me to do that. But part of that was our advice of other colleagues of the town manager who have built these projects was to make sure you had the owner's project manager on and let them assist you when it goes out to quotes for the appraisals, the environmental studies, to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. That's what we did. In October, we interviewed multiple firms. We sent out RFQs to get solicitation of bids for them to come in. The Fire Station Building Committee then did the interviews in public of those firms. Then we picked the best firm. The firm that we are coordinating with has been working with us for for a month or so as we worked out the contract so that we can continue on a good timeline. Now, part of the conversation was, and I think I said it very clearly, we do not want to usurp the authority of the town council. However, we are a duly authorized, appointed subcommittee of the town manager confirmed by the town council. So to me, any contract that comes before our subcommittee is no different than going through the subcommittees such as PPP, General Government, EHS, when they review contracts and then recommend them up to full council for a vote. Now, I had conversations, and I'm sure Councilor Lazo will elaborate on this, as he had a lot of experience as chairman of the school building committee. When we built the schools, that school building committee had the authority to review the contracts and then submit them to the town for ratification. So the oversight of making sure that we're following the right RFQs through the town manager is the building committee then to submit it to the town. So all we're asking for is to make sure that we can operate as the building committee and submit those to the town. The town council has the ultimate authority. However, if we're going to have a building committee, if we go out to RFQs for 14 days, take them in, town council, you're talking 2 months. This project has to be built, and we're doing our fiscal responsibility and our oversight. So that was the reason we did this. One of these items this evening will be withdrawn. The environmental assessment will be withdrawn because we did not have all the recommendations from our owner's project manager. So the two tonight are the appraisal. The one that's before this council tonight was, and I'll let the town manager discuss it if he wishes, was one firm responded to the request for proposal that was published according to mass procurement laws. Town manager is the chief procurement officer. He did it correctly, then reviewed by our owner's project manager, and then brought up to council. One quote. So if we're going to go to subcommittee for general government for one quote, when we need to get appraisals done, we know the appraisal values, we know prices are going up, the project needs to be done. I'm not trying to slow it down. I'm not trying to usurp the power of the council. However, Fire Station Building Committee, again, duly authorized, appointed by this council, not this council, but a council 6 years ago through the town manager. I'll yield for that right now. Thank you.
Well, if I could continue.
Councilor Marquetti.
He asked a question, it was answered, now another council should, point of order,
like to
another
answer this
council should
question.
have the floor.
I'll agree with that.
But I didn't give up the floor.
I'll come back to you. I'll come
All
back
right.
to you.
Fine.
Council Lazo.
I thoroughly understand where the subcommittee mentality is and comes from. I'm a believer in the subcommittee, and we should operate through subcommittees. This building committee is like your subcommittee. When I served on the Southbridge School Building Committee and we put that middle high school up, I never went to a subcommittee. None of us ever went to a subcommittee because we were appointed by the town council, the town manager, confirmed by the council. So when they go to work to present this right here to the council and to move on. This is not an issue that goes to subcommittee because your building committee is basically your committee that answers directly to you and basically answers to the town manager. I know I was appointed by a manager, confirmed by the council, but the whole committee was put together. Once it's put together, it's a viable body that runs this project for the town. DPW doesn't come in, nobody comes in. It's all on that building committee. And as I look through this, all these documents look very, very familiar to what we did on school side. Technically, would you want to take this to subcommittee and hammer it out? You can, if that's the council feeling. But in past practice, in what we did was that the chairman of the building committee came in and answered with the manager, and puts it in front of the council, and the council votes the financing. That's how it's worked in the past. You're going to get some glitches. This is just the beginning. You know, this is not like, wow, we're in the finish line. These are really early stages. These are the things that you need. You need your owner's project manager. You hire this guy. He's your eyes and ears. He's the one that sits at the table and watches your nickels and dimes. And when they put the building together, I'm just going to take one discussion, and I'm in the building business. Oh, we don't want the elevators. We want this thing built on one floor. Well, you start talking to project managers, and you look at some of these pictures on how many floors are there. Because in the building field, depending on the type of building that you build, it's cheaper to build up than out. There's less groundwork. These are all the factors that they work on, not us. I mean, granted, I'm in the field, I might understand it more than most. But the bottom line comes down to is you're hiring a team of experts to deal with the construction portion of this, the bidding portion of this. The manager will be on the ground floor of all the work. And it will come in front of us periodically, and we will approve it or not approve it. But I'm not a fan of letting the building committee go to subcommittee. That is a subcommittee to the council. Thank you.
Councilor Marquetti.
All right, thank you. Shouldn't the environmental assessments be done first to determine the true value of the properties? I see that he says it is now going to be withdrawn, but I would think that in order to do a proper assessment of the property, you would want to know if there was any environmental impacts. And I mean, I know what Councilor Lazo is saying and Councilor Jovada. Like I said, I'm not trying to delay it. I understand there was a vote. The school committee the school building is a little different. There was no townwide vote on that. That was just set right up. So, but for this, and if you're not going to do an environmental assessment, then you're not going to know really what the true value of the property is. At the April 5th presentation, a second question I have here, it was said that there were only going to be 2 properties on Snow Street, but now there are 4 properties on Snow Street, and I was just wondering why there's a reason for the additional properties. But before I give up the mic, because apparently once I give it up, I lose it. There was an original presentation on the cost of land on 4 structures, 2 empty lots, Morton Street, and 2 properties on Snow Street. But with additional 2 properties on Snow Street, now there's going to be more demolition on 4 structures, hazmat and site work. And wouldn't this cause the increase for purchase, demolition, hazmat, and site work from what it was originally proposed, adding 2 more properties? So I'm wondering why the additional properties were added, and if this wouldn't cause more. I'm not trying to delay anything. I'm not trying to get a smirk from you, Mr. Town Manager. I'm just asking questions about this. I'm not opposed to it. I understand.
Point of information, I did not smirk at Councilor Marchetti. I was talking with Councilor Jovan as to who should respond to this question.
All right.
And I really didn't like the insinuation that someone dropped the ball on town administration.
Withdrawn. But I would like to know why there were 2 additional properties added. That's all.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, if I may, and then the town manager can elaborate if you wish. I'll talk as the chairman of this committee. After the town vote, and I think, I'm not going to speak for Council Lazo, but Council Lazo approached me and said, and there was other individuals that also approached me that said, would we consider looking at the final 2 pieces of property there to take a look at possibly purchasing that as well? Because if we were going to take that corner of Snow Street, is going to leave 2 little houses, and the town controls all that area behind it. So why not look at it and say, if we could fit it into the budget and it would make sense, would it be wise to pursue the purchase of those properties so that the town controlled that entire area, perhaps for future growth for Henry Street Field as well? So that was the reason why that. When we originally did the plans, yes, we said that would be the footprint that we would need, but there were other individuals that came up to us and said, does it make sense? So as a committee, we're going to say, okay, does it make sense? Can we fit it into the budget? Would it work? So that's why we're looking at that, and if we're going to do the appraisals, let's do the appraisals at the same time. So that's what we're looking at. And I think anybody would take a look at that. If you look at those 2 small properties, would it benefit that whole area? It would. We're looking at long-range planning, not just the fire station itself, but overall vision of what that area could look like. So that's why we did that. As to, again, there was no dropping of the ball. We're taking a deliberate approach to do this. Now, I just want to state for the record the previous speaker's comment that the school building was different because there was no vote of the townspeople. Correct. However, the vote was of the town council representing the people that used town money. It's the same thing. It might have been a different way to pay for it, but the project is a project. It's the same thing, council. It's just the way it was funded. So that's why you have the same oversight. That's why there's no difference. It's the same process.
All right, thank you. The environmental assets?
As far as the environmental process goes, I'm going to defer to the town manager. I think, yes, we want to get a baseline of the appraisals. We're also working contingent to that to say, okay, the environmental, we have to do some licenses to be able to get onto these properties. It's all working in conjunction with one another. We're talking about this all in conjunction. We're not going to make an offer on a property until we do the environmental assessment of it. So it's all, hey, let's get the, because part of the issue is too, the housing market and the commercial market is so busy right now. We want to line up the appraisal firm and say, hey, get us in the queue. Now, the environmental thing will come up at the next meeting to say, hey, these are the environmental, but we want to be able to, this was the only appraisal firm that the town, I think the town manager sent out, I'll let him say, a bunch of requests to all different appraisals to say, hey, do you want to bid on this? A lot of them came back and said, we're too busy because of the market. This is the only one that sent in a quote for us. So we want to say, hey,
can we get in the queue and secure your services and work on it? So everything's, we do have a plan, Council. I think we're working very hard to make sure, and if anybody has listened to our owner's project manager and our architect, the bottom line is the town voted X number of dollars. At the end of the day, that's all the money we have. And their mission and our mission is on time, under budget. And I'll defer to the town manager if he wants to add anything.
No, I'm happy to answer any question, but I will tell you that after the vote was taken, I immediately got to work on this, and I started talking with some of my peers who are procurement officers or other managers about the appropriate process. We engaged town council, started looking at it strictly from the point of view of doing the land acquisition. After further discussion, it became apparent that we should probably get the assistance of the OPM on board, and we switched gears and did the OPM Rfp, which is a request for proposal. You know, you have to also consider the fact that there isn't a full-time assistant here, which in many other communities, that assistant would be assisting with the procurement. We have an awful lot going on in Southbridge right at the moment, and I've been trying to put in a lot of time to work on this. And the OPM, as previous councilors indicate, you know, they are the eyes and ears. They're essentially a clerk of the works, and they have some of that expertise, and that was the recommendation of my peers to get them on board. As was also alluded, I sent out these firms, and if you understand procurement law, depending upon the cost of a project is the way you procure it, whether you just use standard business practices, whether you solicit quotes, or whether you do a bid or a request for proposal. Based on the nature of this work and the number of properties, we solicited the bids on these particular items, solicited quotes. So I, again, spoke to my peers in the area to get names, other town managers of firms that would qualify in terms of commercial and residential real estate services, because you don't want to get two separate ones. You want to get one that's skilled in both areas of real estate appraisal. We wanted people that only knew Worcester County, that had so many years. So there was a lot of qualifications, or excuse me, requirements that we needed to get an appropriate valuation. When we did send out, I sent out about a half a dozen of these solicitations, and as Councilor Jovan mentioned, only one returned it, and almost all of them said exactly what he said, is because of the nature of the real estate market right now, they couldn't commit to us. We did send out, I think, 8 environmental solicitations, and we had 2 come back, and the OPM is working with them to clarify a couple of issues, and we're hoping to have a recommendation by either the meeting that's on the 5th or by the 10th. And it's my understanding, in speaking with others, that we could do those independently of one another, because once you appraise the structure and the land, any deficiency that may show up in an environmental, you could then adjust the price appropriately. And then concurrent with all of that, as was alluded to, we've sent out letters after speaking with council to get the appropriate permissions so that we can go on to the properties. And once we have all of that information, we will formulate, you know, with the assistance of council, an appropriate offer to make to these folks. And again, was alluded before, did acquisitions in prior communities, especially with the Community Preservation Act, and one of the requirements always was contiguous properties. And it came up through Councilor Lazo, Councilor Jovan. At this point in time, you would have a very large chunk over there of properties along Snow Street, Worcester Street, with town recreation property right behind. It may make sense, if you're going to have all of these folks come out at this point in time to do appraisals, maybe you would do these others if the price was right. So this is part of the solicitation process. And there are people over there, you know, if you're the last house on a particular street, you might say, hey, why not me? Can I get in? And that might create a favorable deal for the town to get it at this time when it might not otherwise. So we're just keeping that dialogue open. So that was the thought process behind the extra 2 parcels.
Very good. Councilor Lazo.
Just food for thought for the council. When I was chairman of the school building committee, I had a battery of experts, project managers, engineers, environmental group. We had a dump up on the hill. The boogeyman was the landfill on, don't build a school there. Only to find out when we went in with our battery of experts that our lot was not contaminated. The only contamination on the new high school was a farm battery, fell out of a farm tractor 25 million years ago, and they took it out, shut the place down, cleaned the dirt up, one battery. So we did well. As far as this fire station, I know everybody wants to say automotive place, greet this, that. Look, hire your battery of experts, go in there and find out what we need to do, if that's even the right site. I mean, maybe you'll find something. I don't think so. While this project was just coming off the ground and they needed to take the two first houses going up the street on Snell Street, I went to Councilor Joe Van, chairman of the building committee, and I said, are you actually going to build this fire station on that site and leave those last two houses? I don't want to badmouth anybody's property, but drive by and take a look at those wonderful structures. You own Henry Street Field. You put hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money in the paving, in the sidewalks, in the lighting. You take this recreation area and you make it a Cadillac, pave the basketball courts, light them up. Now you're going to take your fire station, you're going to put it in front. And you're going to leave two buildings that when you go look at these buildings, the first thing you're going to say is, geez, Mr. Jovian, I hope you at least take a look at this. We might be able to take these for a reasonable amount. And then we will own right to the street, right to our town property. It's the right way to go. Am I right in my suggestion? In theory, yes. In finance and environmentals, you don't know. That's why you hire tie and bond. That's why you hire these project managers. Because when this building committee starts doing anything with the manager, they sit with a battery of experts. And at any given time, Mr. Jovan and his committee can put on a presentation to the council, a PowerPoint to the town. That's what we did. We wanted the town to know what we were doing. Yes, we did have our financing was solid from Boston, and the fire station doesn't have that financing. That doesn't mean you do this project differently. It's all about the money all the time. But the planning and development, the site plan, phase 1, phase 2, you have to go through that in order to know. So to cut off, well, let's not vote this tonight, let's put it to a subcommittee, or let's do something different. Guys, this is a different animal. This isn't running the police department or the fire department. This is a construction project. I've been through the police station, you know, the DPW barn, and we lived a lot of projects. The most successful one was a high school, on time, under budget. But the professionals were up front. They were hitting the problems head on. There wasn't anything we couldn't tackle that we didn't know about because of the team we put together. And I think the committee, the building committee, is putting that same committee together. I know I've met with Joe Van informally, and I think he knows how to ride this bike. It's not his first prom, but at the same time, I think we have to watch out for those tax dollars. I'm with you. But there's a time to watch out for the tax dollars, but don't be foolish. Don't hire these qualified people are going to save you more money on that project. And make sure you do it right once. The middle high school was done right one time, on time and under budget. We can do the same thing here. We just need to get the basics in place so that manager and that building committee actually can answer questions about the site, about the buildings, about the appraisals. So tonight, I think I'm in favor of moving forward on this here tonight.
Councilor Marquetti.
Unless somebody else wanted to talk, I think you're getting me wrong here. I think we should do the environmental study. We should be doing that first. Project management is the next agenda, so I won't speak to that until then. I don't have any problem with it. I just wanted to know why you are buying these 2 additional properties. He gave us a good answer, and I'm fine with that. I do think that we should put the cost on the agenda, though. There is no cost on these next 3 items. It's in the packet, but it's not on the agenda, so that's all. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Very well. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo?
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes?
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
And Counselor Steves?
Yes.
I have 8-0. Very good. Motion passes. Agenda item number 21, vote to approve the contract between Pomeroy Associates LLC and the town of Southbridge for owner's project management services as recommended by the Fire Station Building Committee and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved.
Second?
Councilor Jovan.
Thank you. As you're aware that we did go out for owner's project management services, the committee had solicited, and again, I just want to state for the record, thank you to the town manager because outside of all his other duties, he was the one that put together these requests for quotes for all these services. It's a lot of work to do, and I appreciate everything that he did for our committee. We had, I believe, had 7 or 8 firms that had replied to us. We then selected as a committee, reviewed those as you're required through the designer selection services, the requirements, evaluated those things, got it down to 4 firms that we interviewed, the 4 firms, and we had very good firms that came in, one of which was the owner's project manager of the middle high school that we built, which was NV5. We had CHA, we had Collier's project leaders, and we had Pomeroy. We did interviews with all 4 of those firms, and then a week later we met to discuss our findings, and we selected Pomeroy, which was a, if anybody looks at their proposal, I do have their paperwork, firm that has done a lot of fire station oversight, a lot of fire station projects. Got them on board. We've had a few meetings with them. They've been working with us pending the confirmation of their contract. I'll let the town manager discuss the cost of that contract. It's within the amount that was estimated as because it's a percentage of the overall project. They've been a great firm. They've already given us a lot of guidance as to how we're going to build this project and some of the different oversight. And the big thing that we hear it all the time about oversight and accountability. And part of it was already, they've done an audit of our original feasibility study to make sure that everything we had in that original feasibility study made sense. I think you heard a previous speaker last week said there was, or last meeting said there was new equipment that wasn't accounted for. Well, that was because the original feasibility study was done a couple years ago, and the fire department has gotten a shredder to take needles that are done, so that had to be. So a lot of oversight, that's what we talked about. I think this is I would recommend them. I'll defer to the town manager on the cost and the contract itself. Mr. Town Manager, if that's okay with the chair.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Council. Fire Station Building Committee Chairman Jovan. As was noted, we picked Pomeroy, or the town picked Pomeroy to be the OPM. They came, we checked their references. I actually talked to some of the town managers that I knew of who would work with them. They were highly recommended to us. Again, speaking to my peers as well as Castle Booz, who helped do the preliminary design work, when we presented the dollar amounts to the voters, we had built in what we thought would be the cost for the OPM at that time, and this fee that came in, the $775,000, was consistent with that. I did speak to my peers. It's kind of an industry standard. It's a percentage of the total price of the construction. The contract, and I always jokingly let Councilor Catrona know that I did go over this because this was a standard contract from our new council, KP Law. They had used this before when they did OPM contracts, and we did go through this with the potential, or the candidate this evening, Pomeroy. There were a couple of lines that we worked on. We did make some customizations, and one of them is, it deals with the project timeline, and you'll notice in there, I don't have the section committed to memory, but one of the things we did was that the to be on time, on budget. That particular timeline does not start until the parties agreed upon the start date, which happens after the land acquisition. So the clock won't run on that portion of the project until we get the land acquisition done. And as Councilor Jovan said, although we haven't signed this, Pomeroy and Associates has been working with the town probably for a good 6 weeks, plus or minus, working with us, talking to the various candidates, reviewing the documents to ensure that we get this land acquisition underway, because they believe that's, very important. They understood why we went with the OPM first and then for the land acquisition, but now that they're going to come on board, they wanted to ensure that we would get this done in a timely manner. So they've been working without this agreement to help move the town along.
Discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. I did watch the fire station building committee, and I have to say they do look like a really good team that you've assembled here, Pomeroy and Associates. $775,000. Again, the cost is not on the agenda. I think the cost should be on these agenda. There's a couple of questions I have. First of all, have we bonded for the fire station yet?
If I understand what you mean by bonded, did we use any of the money that was appropriated and authorized through the vote? The answer would be no, because we don't have the cash flow yet to determine, because we haven't spent any money as of yet really on anything. So one of the first orders of business from the OPM and the architects is to get us a cash flow statement so we can know how the cash disbursements will happen, and then we'll be working with the treasurer to issue the bonds appropriately.
So we won't be paying any money until we get the bond, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could just answer. Yeah, the conversation has been, let's determine what the cash flow, because we're not going to borrow all the money at the same time, because it will be we're authorized to borrow that total amount, but
But
we're
I'm
not
just
going to.
wondering where the money's going to come from for this.
Yeah, however we have the authorization to borrow money,
Okay.
so it would be, Karen would answer that more, but based on other projects that I've been involved in, you borrow only when you need it at the favorable amount. So as we work out that, like the town manager alluded to, work out the timeline as to anticipated benchmarks, which we do have some timeline schedule, but now they'll work out the cash flow schedule for the borrowing schedule.
I'll admit it's not my area of expertise, but I would imagine between Ms. Harnoy's and the treasurer, we would also discuss whether it would be more favorable to take more or less at a given time, depending upon the market and the needs based on that cash flow statement. So,
Can I continue?
Certainly.
When I was watching the fire station, the Pomeroy, the project manager, said they really needed a drop-dead time, a go-ahead green light from the town council that this is the site. They had a lot of work to do, couldn't get started until they got a solid okay from the town. So is it prudent to wait till we have the drop-dead time, or do you want to just continue on? I do think they're a good team, I agree with you, but do we want to wait on this, or?
No, through you, Mr. Chairman. No, they're the owner's project manager. They're working on the project. What the question was to them is, we know we have identified the site. They need to manage with us the appraisal part of it, the environmental part, the traffic study part, all those things. They're going to be managing at the same time. That's the identified location. What they need to know is, in order for us to finalize the schedule for a build-out, that, yes, we have those pieces in place, but we can't do that until we get the appraisal going, the environmental, the licenses to go on to property and all that. So it's working in conjunction with it.
Okay, thank you. I'm good, thanks.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councilor Marquetti to add the $775,000 in there, so I make a motion to amend it to state, vote to approve the contract between Pomeroy Associates LLC and Town of Southbridge for owner's project management services in the amount of $775,025. For that, as recommended by the Fire Station Building Committee, can authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
Second.
Very well, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Manager, you'd like to discuss?
No, the only comment I was going to make is, as you know, we just had our fifth and final member in my office started today, so we have a full complement, and 4 out of 5 basically came on board in the last about 4 to 6 weeks. So I'll ensure going forward with the staff that we make sure that those numbers, again, new people, maybe it was an oversight, I didn't catch it, so we'll make sure they get on, because that's the second article that somebody asked about the dollar amount, so we'll take care of it.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate the town manager taking the hit, but that's my hit because I gave the language to Nor. So we'll make sure that the numbers are in place. They're duly noted. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Very good. Roll call.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo?
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
And Counselor Adams?
Yes.
8-0, motion passes.
Do you want to do a vote on was that just on the amendment, though?
Oh, my
Yes.
goodness, that was on the amendment.
Yes, it was.
My mistake, I'm sorry. All right, now we need to vote on the motion as amended. Okay, roll call.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo?
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti?
Yes.
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
And Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
You'd think this was my first year. Okay, agenda item number 22 is withdrawn. I believe
Yeah,
I need-
I'll withdraw it at this time, and then we'll just put it back up.
All right, do I need?
Because I don't have a date for postpone it, so I can't postpone it until the date's certain because we don't, we still have a little bit of work to do on it, so.
Very good.
I'll move to skip over the item.
Would you like
So
that?
Oh,
do
no,
we
it's
still
not needed.
vote
Okay.
on that, or?
What's that?
No, never mind. I withdraw that.
I think we're-
I make a motion, we take no action at this time.
Thank you. I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? No one opposed? Anyone opposed? Okay, very good. Agenda item number 23, discuss returning to hybrid and/or remote meetings and take any action thereof.
So, second.
Very good. Councilor Catrona, you asked to have this item put on. Would you like to address it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you, and as was mentioned this morning in the town, this evening in the town manager's announcements, we see the increase in numbers, the high rates, Harrington Hospital, we heard about, we heard that some of the numbers are the highest that they've ever been. I just think putting it out there for the taxpayers, the citizens, and the community to participate remotely if they choose to would be a good idea. Thank you.
Councilor Marquetti.
I don't have any problem with this either. I know that I go past the line on South Street, and the cars are lined up down Sale Street, so I know that the numbers are up. A lot of people are getting tested, so we are seeing a spike in some of the variants. Even tonight, police chief said a lot of the candidates couldn't be here, and some of them couldn't be here because of COVID. So I like this hall. It's big, it's wide, it's open. I think it's a good place to have our meetings. I feel safer when we're in a larger place like this, and I would like to see I think the hybrid is a good idea. Let some of the other people participate in our meetings through hybrid. I personally would like to keep coming here. I can't stand staring at the computer so long, but I don't have a problem with hybrid. So that's all. Thank you.
Councilor Lazo, then Councilor Ryan.
Debate of hybrid will always go on and on, whatever the reason is. My thing is, we were remote for the longest time. I think it is so much more effective being in the chamber as a government, in the house of the people. Yeah, some people on a mask, when it's distancing, the sanitizers are here. I think it's been working very well. I just don't think we should go backwards. I think going remote would be going backwards to me. So I'm not in favor of it, but I respect my councilors. Thank you.
Councilor Ryan, then Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. You asked me this a month ago, and I would have said, no way, I'm not, I don't support going back to remote or hybrid. But you have to evolve as the medical situation has evolved. Right? We're seeing wicked high positivity rates. I, for one, constantly worry about working in a facility in which I come in contact with people all day, coming here and exposing, to be frank, some older people who may have weakened immune systems to something I might be carrying. You know, as this is going up, I think this is something the council needs to take back. I fully support at least going to hybrid, and I would even consider going back to remote at this time, considering how high the numbers are. They're some of the highest we've seen in Southbridge since the start of this pandemic. The hospital's overloaded, our vaccination centers are getting overloaded. Shots, I had to wait a month to get my shot, my booster shot, which I got last week. That's why I couldn't make it to EHS, because I had to wait, and if I had tried to reschedule, it would have been another month. So I think we have to start thinking about what's best for the public safety, and if we can effectively meet in a remote setting without putting others at risk, I think that's something worthy of consideration.
Councilor Jovan, then Councilor Lazo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having chaired meetings, both hybrid, remote, I just caution the council that I would not be in favor of hybrid. It's either in person or remote, not a hybrid. It's too difficult to coordinate with cable to make sure that they would be here for umpteen meetings to be able to go live so that the residents can hear you, to do remote. It's the only way you're going to be able to do it is the cable has to have access to be able to do a hybrid meeting. So you're either going to do fully remote or fully in person. We had instances where people would call in, but those are not supposed to be members of your body. And that's the problem. If you're going to go the hybrid, whoever's part of that public body, the person at home has to be able to hear that person and make sure that we can hear them, the person that's remote that's calling in. So the only chamber to do that is here, and you need the full cable access to be able to do subcommittee meetings and all that. So that's my 2 cents at this time. I understand fully the having and continue to sit in on those COVID meetings. The numbers are going up. Family members are getting COVID that are fully vaccinated. I think I don't think anything you do. The bottom line is wear a mask, get vaccinated, and use the best practices that you have. And we have to continue to press on. I get it, but no matter what we do, somebody's going to get COVID for whatever reason. People that are working in hospitals now, fully vaccinated, are getting COVID. So I would not support a hybrid approach. Thank you.
Councilor Lazo, then Councilor Adams.
This discussion is going to go on for a while publicly. I mean, we had a Board of Health meeting where the head honcho of Harrington Memorial Hospital came in, wanted a mask mandate in Southbridge, but didn't go to the 20 other communities Harrington controls or is under the jurisdiction. Didn't go to Webster. I felt like we were used as guinea pigs. Then he turns to me and says, follow the science. We know this is a serious pandemic. Nobody's going to argue that point. But when they say follow the science, I look at it, I look at us. We're just the average people in Southbridge, volunteering to be a counselor, got elected. People are vaccinated, they're getting COVID. They've had the booster, they're getting COVID. So we're smarter or better off now than we were a year ago? Yes, this is not going away. This is going to be like flu season. Here it comes again. I think Jack Jovian says it best practices. As a human being, whatever you feel comfortable with and that you want to do it. But I don't think that, if the governor is not coming down with any mandates, I don't see us doing mandates or shutting down our meetings or going backwards. I think we learned a lot by shutdowns, just about killed our economy, and we need to work it back. I'm just not in favor of it. Thanks.
Councilor Adams, then Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I completely understand where everybody's coming from. I wouldn't be opposed to subcommittee meetings because it's located in a smaller place and you have actually more people in those subcommittee meetings than you actually have at the town council meetings. So maybe that's something that we can kind of work through. I will say this, the hybrid didn't work. The hybrid was terrible. Nobody could hear each other. It was not a good event. And, you know, we want to make sure, as far as we can do, is transparency. But the hybrid was not transparent at all because we were having constant problems out of it. I'm not I agree with Councilor Jovan, either remote or do it live, remote or live. So split the two up. But being in the council chambers, we've spread ourselves out. It's probably one of the bigger council chambers I've ever seen in my life. So there's plenty of room here. People pretty much are wearing a mask. People are coming in here, sitting and keeping their paces from each other. So I don't see a need for the town council per se meeting, but if you want to look at a subcommittee meeting, I mean, really, I think that's the chair's prerogative to make that decision. There was no vote, I don't believe, by the council to ban anything. But that being said, we've all kind of agreed to have these meetings face-to-face. But I think it's more productive face-to-face than it is over on the remote side. So that's my recommendation at this point in time. Thank you.
Councilor Ryan.
So the sake for a motion, and that way we can end this, I will move that we have town council and subcommittee meetings in remote at this time, until such time that the council determines.
This is discussion tonight. You want to put it as an agenda item?
Yeah, we can make a
This
motion.
is just up for discussion?
It is, Counselor, but you can make a motion, right?
Always make a motion.
Does say
And
take any action.
action thereof.
It takes, yeah, so I will stand by my motion to move to remote town council and subcommittee meetings at this time.
I didn't get any notification, that's all I'm saying.
I'll second for discussion.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion.
Okay. I move that we move to remote town council and subcommittee meetings until such time that this council deems otherwise.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Steves.
I understand a lot of what Scott was saying a few minutes ago, because I'm kind of inclined to agree.
Council.
Thank you.
Fine. I'm very much torn with this because I'm inclined to agree somewhat with what Scott was saying earlier about the efficacy of meeting in person. I think we're probably all on the same page when it comes to that. But I'm also somewhat inclined to agree with what you just said, Jackie, about the need for doing this, because we have also done it remotely and it does work. It's a little cumbersome sometimes, and it can be a little difficult to try to figure out who's talking and when you've got multiple people staring at computers. And I don't particularly relish the idea of staring at computers for hours on end either. But I'm also kind of torn by it because, as some of you might know, I also am juggling health issues myself, despite not being a senior citizen. And some of them overlap some of the concerns that can be hit harder by COVID issues. But I'm also not vaccinated, and I'm concerned about that end of it too. So, I mean, we're kind of seeing a situation right now where it is becoming a concern in the community. It's becoming a concern at the larger scale, well beyond our community, to see where this is going, where, as Scott pointed out, people are getting it despite being vaccinated. And I'm also not particularly afraid of being here in the chambers either. So it's kind of a catch-22. I mean, honestly, I will support whatever the council wants to do on this.
Anyone else? No? Councilor Lazo.
Is there somebody else? I just think that people in the chamber, when government is in session, work so much better in person. The remote to me, it didn't do any justice for your government. Having this chamber, we're fortunate that we can space out the way we space out. People are in the crowds, we've had crowds all spaced out. I mean, masked, demasked. For me, I still don't see where the fire alarm is, hurry up, let's go to remote. Unless you just don't want to go to a meeting, I don't know. I personally think government works better in person. When you're discussing something and talking to a person, not not a monitor. But then I don't have to attend those meetings.
Counselor Ryan.
I do, it's not, I push back on the assertion that this is because we don't want to attend meetings. No, I want to attend meetings, otherwise I wouldn't be coming. I just will say that. But when it comes to public health, every company that you talk to any company's HR department right now, they're seeing more cases in their buildings right now of COVID being passed around staff. It's going like crazy because of how easily transmittable this virus is. As it's been pointed out, people who've been vaccinated can get it still. There are issues with that. I'm not concerned that I'm going to get it from any one of the people here. What I'm concerned about is coming in, possibly not knowing I have it, in a brief moment, and I have a brief interaction with someone, I pass it to somebody. We have done this before, and it's been effective. The numbers are on the rise. This is a public safety and health issue. We can run this government from our computers, from home, and do it safely without getting anybody sick. I come at this from a healthcare perspective, because that's what I did for most of my early life. Public safety is paramount. And I think it's incumbent upon us as elected leaders to set that. We're not delaying anything. We're not pushing anything off. We're still doing our duty. But at the same time, we're acknowledging that public health needs to be protected during this very vulnerable time. That's it. That's my last comment on this issue.
Councilor Lazo.
Why doesn't the governor step up and make it one big shut down the state again? Because it doesn't make sense. Shutdowns don't work. Look what it did to America. But you're one of the other side, I understand.
Okay. Councilor Adams.
I'll go back to the question, the motion, though. I have no problem with the subcommittee portion of it, just because it's closer. I'm not going to die on the vine for anything at this point in time, but, you know, I say town council meetings should stay right here. There's plenty of space, take plenty of precautions and all that kind of stuff, and it goes from there. So I'll let the rest of the town council figure it out, and I'll follow suit.
Anyone else? Very good. We have a motion and a second. There being no further discussion?
Just clarification.
Certainly.
This is just for subcommittee.
No, my motion was for both the town council and subcommittee meetings.
Thank you for asking that, because I thought it was subcommittee.
I thought it was just.
No, it was for both, for all meetings of this body. Because one thing that came out from last time was one body's doing one body's doing another. I think it's clear, I think as a council, we need to set clear expectations for all bodies of the council.
Whoa.
Of the council, of the subcommittee.
Mr. Chairman, does that mean all the other boards and commissions in Southbridge are going
I
to follow
just
it?
said the subcommittees of the council.
So we're special, we just do us. You lack leadership.
No.
Well, that was uncalled for. At least I come to these meetings, Councilor Lazo. How many meetings have you missed during the pandemic?
Thank you.
That's enough, please.
I'm not trying to
That's
turn
enough,
this into a
please.
political thing here.
I make a motion, we move the question.
Question is being moved. Roll call vote. On moving the question.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes,
Counselor Lazo?
No,
I'm moving the question.
oh, yes.
Counselor Marchetti?
No.
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
And Counselor Daniel?
Yes. Very good. The question has been moved. We have a motion and a second. Mary, would you read the motion?
Yep. Vote to hold town council and subcommittee meetings remotely until the council deems otherwise.
Very good. Roll call vote.
Counselor Lazo?
No,
Counselor Marchetti?
Yes.
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
No.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
No.
And Counselor Jovan?
No.
It's a tie vote.
That's a tie vote.
Which means it fails.
fails.
Motion fails.
I want to recount.
Very good. Agenda item 24. Vote to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiation with non-union personnel and/or to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel of the town manager. Council will return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Mr.
Roll
Chairman,
call vote. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know why we're going into executive session. I mean, we had a discussion, we decided, he accepted, it's been written. All we have to do now is talk about it in open session and vote
Point of order,
on it.
Mr. Chairman. He's discussing executive session material.
I'll explain that when in executive session. I'll explain why we need to do that.
Anytime you have an executive session and you vote, and it's right in the executive session what we're doing, you have to come back.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like you to rule on my point of order.
I thought I had. Yes, that is discussion of executive session material.
We don't need to go there.
Where
That's my point.
is a motion to go into executive session? Is there a motion and a second?
There was.
All right. Roll call vote.
Counselor Marquetti?
No?
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
And Counselor Lazo?
Yes.
Very good. We'll return to open session. Calling the open session back to order. Moving on to agenda item number 25, discussion of the amendment to the town manager employment agreement. Any discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the right now to talk about what we discussed, correct? I'm asking first before anybody gets their...
I'm sorry.
No, what's discussed in executive session has to stay there until minutes are approved and everything is finished.
Then what are we discussing here? Whether we're in favor, whether we're opposed, what are we discussing?
Basically, whether or not you would be in favor of the
I
amendment.
didn't hear you, sorry.
Whether or not you would be in favor of the amendment.
Okay, well, then I would like to say I'm not in favor of the amendment.
I would suggest you bypass 25 and just make a motion to accept the amendment, and then that would open up discussion. So you have a duplicate, so it should be just vote to accept the amendment, and then we can have discussion on the amendment.
Very
And is
good.
the amendment going to be made known?
What's that?
Is the amendment going to be made known?
Yes.
All right. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we're bypassing 25? All right.
Am I correct in that, Council? I believe I'm correct in that.
I think you're right, yeah.
Very good. I stand corrected. Agenda item number 26, vote to accept the amendment to the town manager employment agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Do I read the amendment?
What's that?
Do I read the amendment?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Amendment to employment agreement between the town of Southbridge and town manager Michael F. McCall. This agreement, pursuant to Chapter 41, Section 108N of the Massachusetts General Laws, made and entered into this day of December 2021 by and between the town of Southbridge, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a municipal corporation, hereinafter called the town, acting by and through its town council, hereinafter called council, and Michael F. McCall, hereinafter called town manager, as follows. Witnessed, whereas the council under Chapter 41, Section 108N of the general laws may contract with the town manager for such services, whereas the town and the town manager entered into an employment agreement on or about July 20, 2020, whereas it is the desire of the town and the town manager to enter into an amendment to the existing contract, and now therefore, in consideration of the mutual covenants contained herein, the parties agree as follows. The employment agreement effective July 20, 2020 shall remain in full force and effect, except to the extent they are specifically amended in this agreement. 2, the parties agreed to amend Section 8 of the agreement by adding the following language. Effective September 1, 2021, the town shall make an annual contribution to the town manager's Section 457 Deferred Compensation Plan in the amount of $5,000. Such payment to be made annually on September 1. In witness whereof, the town of Southbridge, Massachusetts has caused this agreement to be signed and executed in its behalf by its town council and duly attested by its town clerk, and the town manager has signed and executed this agreement, both in duplicate. Councilor Jove.
Just like to, I believe an amendment is in order. It should be, instead of vote to accept, it should be vote to ratify. So I'd make a motion to amend it to be ratified.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Councilor Marquetti opposed. Okay, any discussion now on the actual motion? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you. I would like it known that I voted against this amendment. I don't have a problem with the town manager. We've worked together. We had some issues in the beginning, but since then, I think we've worked it out. I think he's been very helpful with the capital planning committee. But I voted against giving him a $5,000 deferred compensation. I call it a bonus. This is an annual bonus every year. The manager also says he wants to attend less meetings. There's too many meetings for him to attend. So the town manager wants more money and less work, and to me, that doesn't add up. Some councilors seem to feel that they don't want to lose this town manager. I can tell you this. If I have worked a lot of jobs in my life, a lot of different employers. If I ever went to my boss and said, I want more money and less work or I'll quit, he would have pointed at the exit and said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So I don't have a problem with this town manager. I just think he's been here 1 year. I'd like to wait a while. He has saved us some money on legal fees. I agree with that. But that is why we hired him. We hired him because he could save us money on legal fees. 2 weeks ago, we were provided a narrative of the town of Southbridge for an agenda item concerning body cameras. And in the narrative, it said Southbridge ranks among the top 10 poorest cities in Massachusetts. Over 20% of the town's population is comprised of citizens living below the poverty level. So, and yet we're able to hand out a $5,000 bonus check. So nothing against the town manager. I just feel, well, we have to live within our means, and that's all. So that's why I want it known I voted against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lazo, then Councilor Jove.
I think Councilor Ryan.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Councilor Steve, no comment. Go ahead, Councilor.
I totally understand the previous speaker's stance. I was one of the councilors that voted no on the $5,000 originally because I did not know whether this manager was what he really was. I mean, is it real? Everything he's saying, is it true? You don't know unless you experience the manager's style, management, everything that he stood for, his honor, his word. A lot of things go into dealing with it, and it's called people skills that you deal with a person. Well, I'm not the most easiest person to work with. As one person says, I play to win. I am from Southbridge, and I put Southbridge first all the time. If it comes down to Southbridge or the manager, I'm for Southbridge. But if the manager is good for Southbridge, I'm going to stand with that guy. I'm going to stand behind him. I told him I wouldn't vote for the $5,000, but you got my word. Show me what you can do. This gentleman, not to toot his horn, his work toots his own horn, walked in a situation called cleanup. Not coming into a management environment that's actually pleasant. A lot of holes to fill, a lot of problems to solve, a lot of mountains have slid that have to be cleaned up. The registry of motor vehicles, the middle school project. I could sit here and inflate, I'd rather not. The gentleman did one thing to me. He proved to me that he was the real deal, and I proved to him that I'm the man of my word, that I would vote that through, and I did. I voted in favor, only one councilor. as we move forward with this manager. There are a lot of people think like, I like the manager, I don't like the manager. I don't agree with this guy on a 24/7 basis. But I know one thing about this guy. When he looks you in the eye and he tells you what he's going to do, there's no BS, there's no flipping, no two-face. And sometimes it gets a little hot, and that's okay. As Councilor Adams says, everybody needs a little passion in their day. So we always work for the general public. I represent Southbridge. He's what I call the mechanism, the manager. I didn't formulate this government. It was here when I got here. This gentleman is the axle that all the wheels, all these little spindles come off to the tire to run this town. So for me, I sit there and I go, when he does something wrong or I think he's sitting on his hands, I'll be the first one to step up, give him 5 minutes in the office. Here's where I'm coming from. But I can tell you one thing, he doesn't roll over and quit. He constantly comes back and he proves himself through performance. And as I see this, I said, the one thing that's all I ask a manager to do is deal in good faith. My friend Mr. Jovan knows that very well through his negotiations on school committee. In good faith dealing is something that's almost a lost art in some situations. I think we have it here. I don't want to lose that in good faith dealing with this council. Yeah, we get hot, we get a little excited. Don't get excited. But I think this manager has earned that stipend. We took the car away, took all that. We took many things away in the beginning. But he did have the chance to prove himself. He has proved himself. I know what a manager looks like. I've worked from Jacobs, Howley, Florence, Clark, you name them. I've been around long enough to work with them all. He's different. He's not like everybody else. But then who is? Going forward, I think that he is what I call the diamond in the rough. The only thing that, if I had to complain about him, he doesn't smile enough. Or maybe he saves all his smiles for his family when he goes home after dealing with us. But that being said, dealing in good faith and being fair about things, he earned that $5,000. That's no gift. And he didn't take less work. He took on more work. And I think going forward, we might have to slow his engine down a little bit so he can smell the roses on the side of the road. Thank you.
Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Hearing one of the previous speakers, it almost sounds like I'm in Congress, where a congressman will sit there and put an easel up there and say, this person said this to the Ukrainian president. I never heard the town manager state, I want less work. Never once have I heard the town manager say, I want less work and more pay. What I heard the town manager say is he's out an awful lot at meetings, like we all are. And yes, the town manager is expected to be at council meetings and subcommittee meetings, and all he asked for to the council was, hey, do you think we could work something out so I don't have to be out 3 to 4 nights a week and have some work-life balance? I think as an employer, we should respect our employees to say, hey, wait a minute, and check ourselves and say, yeah, maybe we put too much to expect them to be here 3 nights in the same week. For a meeting for what? Mr. Town Manager, you have to be at PPP or EHS because I want to transfer 2 golf carts, and we call the meeting at 6:30 and he has to stay here till 6:30 because we're transferring 2 golf carts. Ridiculous. All he asked for is, hey, do you think we could work out a schedule to state so I could have some work-life balance? This town manager, and I can talk about performance, is here constantly. You go into his office, he's always working on something. I will tell you from the Fire Station Building Committee perspective, he did more in 1 month than the previous manager did for 5 months. And you can state, how long am I going to talk about the previous manager? I'll talk about it because I lived it as the chairman. And I knew what less work that person did and what work this individual is doing. So it's disingenuous for you to sit here and say he wanted less work because he never said that.
I never heard this town manager say, and if you don't give it to me, I quit. Never heard it. Never heard it. You owe him an apology. The reason for this is we talked about good faith, as my good colleague, Councilor Lazo, stated. He came to us and negotiated, and we held firm in some of the parameters when we first entered into negotiations. And we said, show us your performance, and you'll get what you're asking for. And it's not a lot. And I challenge any council, as you look around this state and look at what people are getting paid to be in management executive positions in towns, and go to the MMA website and look at how many town manager jobs are open. Have you looked, Councilor? Have you looked to see how many jobs are open? How many town assessors, tax treasurer collectors? He had to build a whole entire new team here. And all he's asking for is a little compassion. And I don't know how many, in my year of serving on council chair with him, I don't know how many conversations I had with him to say, Mr. Manager, you have to have some work-life balance. You have to check yourself and make sure there is no question about that person's individual work ethic or commitment to this town. I haven't seen it in a manager in I don't know how long. So I have no problem with this. I have no problem defending this town manager. He could defend himself, but I know it all too well. He deserves what we're giving him, if not more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's typical almost every single meeting that Councilor Jovan has to wait till the very end, and rather than just say, this is what I think, he's got to lay down some attack on something else that somebody else said. He can't just state his own opinion. He's got to say, well, this is why you're wrong, and he gets very dramatic about it. I simply am saying that everybody is concerned that he's going to leave this town. You're right. He never said that to me, but you seem to be concerned that he's going to quit. And I'm saying that if I did that, if I said, he never said that to me, but if I said that to someone, I'm going to quit if you don't give me a raise, they would show me the door. So that's all I'm saying. I don't attack what you are saying. You seem to have a problem every time. You have to wait to be the last person to talk because you have to somehow attack what I said. I think you should just stick to what your opinion is, and I'll stick to my opinion.
Move the question.
Thank you.
Wait, Mr. Chair.
You can't just shout it out like that. First of all, you have to be acknowledged before you shout out, move the question.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Please direct everything through the chair. Councilor Jovan.
Thank you. I don't try to be dramatic, Mr. Chairman. What I did was state facts. The previous speaker stated a fact. He stated that the town manager wants less work. And I stated, and I didn't wait till the last minute, there's other councilors that want to speak. I was the second speaker. Councilor Steves asked to be recognized as well. I believe, Councilor. However, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but however, I'm going to call out when somebody says something that isn't truthful. He stated earlier in the meeting that the town dropped the ball, the administration dropped the ball on something, no basis in fact. So yeah, if I want to be dramatic, I'm going to state facts. Those are the facts. The fact is the town manager never said that he wants to work less. He stated that it was the town manager who wanted to work less, and that the town manager was going to quit if he didn't get it. That's his words, not my words to be dramatic.
Stand by my
and if he
words.
thinks that I'm attacking him, I'm not trying to attack him, but I will call out when there's misstatements made on this dais to the public, because they're all listening. Councilors like to play the game, but if they're called out when they're on the facts, I will speak the facts. And when there's not a fact and I stand to be corrected, I state I was corrected. Thank you.
I stand by my words.
Thank you. Councilor Steves? Councilor Steves, did you have something to say? Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will say this is based on my past career, management, leadership, and especially somebody or a position as a town manager, just not Mr. McCall, but town manager position, is responsible for the town and the effectiveness of the town and its employees 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If he's on vacation or she is on vacation, she's going to get a phone call if there's an emergency that happens within the town. I do know Mr. McCall has contacted us multiple times while he's either been on vacation, comp time, weekends, nights, stuff like that. He's never asked for less work, I will say that, but he's responsible for this town 24/7. The chiefs go to him if there's an emergency. Employees go to him if there's an emergency. I do believe our evaluation shows that he earned the deferred compensation that he sought and that we are here tonight to talk about and vote on. So this town manager works quite hard. He doesn't go home at 4:30, and if he does go home at 4:30, okay, that's fine. If he goes home at 5, that's fine as well. But you know, I have yet to see him not be available to any counselor or anybody else, to that matter, because he was on a boat on a lake somewhere and just hanging out all day long. So I have no problem voting in favor. I do believe we owe it, and it's time for a change. We do have subcommittee meetings 3-4 times a week sometime. It is ridiculous a little bit, and he has a right to have a nice home life at the same time with his family and spend time with his family, just like all of us do as well. It just happens that some of us are chairs of subcommittees, and we make decisions on certain dates, and we hopefully will rectify that very soon. But I think that is something that we can control as a town council in the near future of subcommittee meetings, and I hope that moves pretty quickly. But I do wholeheartedly believe that this town manager's earned what we're bringing up today. Like Councilor Jovan said, if not a little bit more. But at this time, you know, this is what we've offered him. And I appreciate all the hard work he's done for this town and a lot of things that have been dropping the ball. And sometimes they just come all at one tidal wave within this town. And, you know, this past couple of years has been a tidal wave. But that's a good thing because that means change is happening within town, and the town manager is a vital part of what we're doing, and bringing about his expertise and his guidance to us and mentorship. So I wish him nothing but the best, but that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Before I recognize Councilor Ryan, I'd like to say that in my 6 months on the job as council chair, my day job allows me the opportunity to be here during the day, and the office is well run, and he's here doing the job on the phones, meeting with department heads, extraordinary juggling of the demands of the job. There's always something new that's coming in on the phone calls, and at the same time he's maintaining the work on, for instance, the Firehouse Building Committee. It was mentioned earlier about the Wells building, the problems that we had with the Wells building and how they were fixed. Countless issues that people don't realize come before the town manager on a daily basis. Secondly, I think it's important to remember that on his evaluation, he got a superior evaluation on the first year. Top-notch evaluation. And I think sometimes we forget that he is an administrator, and as such, he's in the business, as it were, of being an administrator, a leader of an organization. We're a $60 million business here in town, and we have a responsibility to maintain and attract, maintain, and continue to nurture top-notch employees to provide the best services that the town should get. I love this town. I want what's best for the town. And to the bottom of my heart, I really believe that this gentleman has been a godsend to the town in terms of what he's provided over the last year or so that he's been working for us, 15 months. I wouldn't want to wish what he's gone through in terms of having to deal with crisis after crisis after crisis and still maintain a home life. And I don't know, frankly, I don't know how he's done it. Councilor Jovan's correct. I too have had discussions with him about the home life, work-life balance, and he's a tough nut to crack. He does the job, he wants to do the job, he takes pride in doing the job well, and I think he's been superior in how well he's done the job. So I definitely would be in favor of this amendment. Councilor Ryan.
I'll be brief. I said this before, I'll say it again. This is the best manager this community's had this entire millennia. Like, he is well prepared, he's thoughtful, he's immediate. I literally emailed him last night, or on this weekend, about something on the website, something minor. He immediately responded that night. I didn't expect a response from him until Monday. Like most people, you know, late on a Friday, you're not gonna get a response, because those, but that shows the level of character here. And as was pointed out, this man's gotten a great evaluation. He's been doing a great job. He's done more in his time than managers have done the last 6, 7, 8 years. He's worth it. And the assertions that have been made against him, in my mind, wrong. And that's why we shouldn't really comment too much about what happens in executive session, because things can get distorted when we don't know, when the public wasn't there. So that's it.
Mr. Manager.
I have nothing other to add, but thank you for your time and your consideration. But I have to put one shameless plug in. The person who allows me to do this day in, day out, 24/7 is my wife. So I want to give her a nod to her because she's probably watching right now. So I thank her. She allows me to come here and do the work for Southbridge. So she's behind Southbridge too. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mary, can you read the motion as amended?
Vote to ratify the amendment to the town manager employment agreement.
Very good. Roll call vote.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
Counselor Lazo?
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti?
No.
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
And Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Very good. The motion passes. Congratulations, Mr.
Thank
Manager.
you again.
Council's Forum, agenda item number 27. Councilor Lazo.
Let's make this quick. Been here a while. I'd just like to, my deepest sympathy go out to our town assessor, Will Canoia, the passing of his dad this week. It was a sad moment. The Canoia family always was a pillar of Southbridge. The name goes back generations. Willie, you're my deepest sympathy, my friend. Other than that, I just would like to wish my fellow councilors, town manager, citizens of Southbridge a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will also be brief. I want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday season and a Happy New Year. I'm looking forward to hopefully a much more positive and productive and less COVID year next year. I think we all are. So have a wonderful and safe holiday.
Very good. Councilor Steves.
I'll just echo what Councilor, come on, brain, what Jackie just said. My brain's, it's one of those days. And just simply say that whatever you celebrate out there, enjoy it and have a great new year, and we will see you next year.
Very good. Councilor Catrona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo previous councilors. Wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, stay safe. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of questions. First of all, it's the end of the year, and I would like to know how we're doing with the marijuana money. We did vote to allow marijuana to come into this town because we wanted the revenue, so I'd like to know how much are we getting from the marijuana revenue, and also what's going on with the licenses, because I know I think there are 2 businesses going now, but I think we gave out 4 licenses, so I'd like to know what's going on with the other 2 licenses, what's going on with those marijuana companies. If you can give us any other information, like what they gave for, if we're allowed to, I think we're allowed to know how much they gave to a charity and things like that, and their employment, how many Southbridge residents did they hire. I think that's important to know those things. The other thing is I've had some complaints actually about the town website. I think it's a nice looking website, but they're just, it seems to be tough to navigate. Seems to be a couple things missing on there. I went to look at the employment and it's just an application. There's nothing on there about what, I did eventually find where the jobs were listed. There was only one job listed on there, but I know that there were more than one job listed on the old website. So if we could get that website a little bit more information on there, like the old website. Other than that, it is a nice looking website. Looking forward to seeing the meetings on there. And finally, I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well, including you, Mr. Town Manager. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Chairman,
Thank you.
just generally, if people do see issues, as Councilor Ryan did and as Councilor Marquetti has, just point them out to us and we'll get them. As I indicated before, staff has gone through the training. They're going to wean us off of their customer support. I used to maintain the website, this particular platform in the previous town I worked at, so we have some in-house knowledge, and we're going to be adding the links to the meetings right to the agendas so that people can go back in time. That's something I was working on with the clerk and Nora El-Gadiri in my office. So, and again, we have somebody new, so as we bring on more people, we'll be able to, we're not bringing new people, we're filling the old positions, but we'll have the clerical staff and the administrative staff to work on those issues. So again, send them over and we'll get them addressed. Thank you. And also, Mr. Chairman, I do wish the members of the council, you and everybody out in Southbridge, a happy holiday and safe holiday.
Thank you. Councilor Jovan.
Yeah, thank you. To Will Canoia, happy retirement and condolences to his family. His father was a great guy. I had many conversations with him at Lions Club. So condolences to him and his family during this season. To everybody out there, just be safe. Just with everything going on with COVID and everything else, just be safe, but enjoy your holidays and wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and look forward to 2022.
Very good. Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Same thing to Mr. Canoyer. Congratulations. And I met his father, who's a veteran, when we were redoing the veterans room. A very gentle soul, it seemed to be, and a great conversation we had about our own experiences. So it was really nice to meet him, and his son obviously was very proud of his dad. Let's see here. I wish everybody else a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, same as everybody else. Last thing is January 10th, curbside vote on, we're going to bring the motions forward to the town council for a vote of the town council. I do have a meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, with the chair, town manager, Mr. Pelletier, and Anna, just to go over possible motions and stuff like that. So that should be on our agenda. So if you have any questions or the residents have any questions on this, please reach out to me or any other member of the curbside collection or the town manager or whoever may be. But I would bring, and maybe I'll just try to remember this, bring your packets with you just as a brief, so kind of refresh your memory.
Councilor Jovan.
I just threw you to Councilor Adams, if possible, if you could resend those electronically, that'd be great, because I have no idea where my packet might have been because it was so long ago. If you could resend that.
I sure will, no problem. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. And agenda item number 28, discussion of the next meeting, Monday, January 10th, 7 p.m., right here in the dais. That's it.
Very good. Before I take a motion to adjourn, I'd just like to ask councilors to step forward before they leave to sign this document here that needs to be signed. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? Opposed? Very good. We're adjourned.